Hey everybody, Daryl here with Hope and Truth in a crazy mixed up world. Today we're going to be talking about man's law. That's right, law and order and how it all works and where did it come from. Like take this intersection back here for instance. Imagine if we didn't have laws, that you have to stop at a red light or you can go on a green light. What kind of chaos would we have here at an intersection like this? We have laws. You stop, the law says if the light turns red, you stop and you let the other cars go through, right? So, and what happens if you run a red light? Well, the police will pull you over. That's right, you get a ticket for breaking the law. So we have laws to help us and keep us safe, such as like this intersection back here. We try not to have accidents. It happens sometimes, but for the most part, if we're paying attention, we see, oh, the light turned red. We need to stop. Okay? So, let's move on. And we have all kinds of laws in our country. Like, take for instance that sign behind me there that says 35 miles an hour. We have speed limit laws, right? So if you're driving along and you're driving 65 down a 35 mile an hour zone, what's going to happen? Oh, you're going to get pulled over and get a ticket. You're breaking the law. Or you're just driving down the road in your car. In our state, if you're driving down the road like this, talking on the phone, not paying attention, or if you're texting away, and a policeman sees you, he can pull you over and he can give you a ticket. Think about it. You're breaking the law. They just made a law about that, especially the texting part. And they're having it up to you. Now, if you want to use Bluetooth and they call on the phone, you push a little button and you can drive and talk, and everybody just thinks you're talking to yourself, but, hey, don't listen to the phone, talk and drive at the same time. Okay? Or, I just thought of something. What happens since I'm in my car right now and I'm pretending like I'm driving along? I'm not really driving along, but have I forgotten something? Oh yeah, we have another law. It's my seat belt. I don't have my seat belt on. In most states now, they want you to have a seat belt on. Well, here you go. Got my seat belt on. What else is going on? Let's take a closer look at things, okay? Talk to you in a bit. Bye. And hey, Daryl here. We just got back inside here in the studio and we're talking about man's laws. And let's take a look at man's laws for a little bit. Where did they come from? How did they develop? And why do we keep creating new and new laws all the time for? And, aren't the laws we have good enough, or are they not good enough, or why is all this? So let's take a look at it, like from the very beginning. Let's go back, let's say, back to caveman days, and Og hit Lump on the head with his club, and Lump fell over and didn't get back up again. And everybody stared at him going, what's wrong with him? Why won't he get up? And they pick up his arm and it goes, it falls. And they're like looking at him going like, what did you do? I hit him with the club because he was chasing after my woman, and all of a sudden they realized that Lump is never going to get up again. He's not getting up. Something happened to him. His life ended. And they said, well, this isn't good. You can't just go around thumping everybody with your club and they never get back up again. This is not good. We have to say you can't do this. Let's make it a law. And if you do this, you're in big trouble. And remember when we used to have the electric chair and stuff like that? These guys that would murder people, and they would get the death sentence, and they'd be put to death because they chose to take somebody else's life. So we said, okay, let's do this. and that's their punishment, And maybe if we do that and people get death punishments, maybe they won't be so likely to want to commit a crime. Okay, what about some were back in the past. One guy saw a horse he liked, and he said, "That's a fine looking horse. I want a horse like that." And he said, "But it belongs to old Bill over there. But I don't think old Bill's going to know if I just take off with him." And he steals the horse. Well, back in the day, if you read Old West stories and all that stuff, that's a hanging offense right there. He stole Bill's horse, and Bill wants that horse back. He was a horse thief, and you could get a hanging offense for that. So, there was a lot of stuff that we created, said you can't just take my horse. It's not your horse to take. Or if I go out and rob a bank, it's not my money. It's somebody else's money. I'm going to get in trouble for it. And, we have our men in blue. They're going to come along, and they're going to pick me up. They're going to arrest me, and they're going to put me in jail for stealing the money from the bank. And there's all kinds of laws, just like the seatbelt law I brought up, or having the phone up to your ear. There's all kinds of laws out there. There's so many laws that I don't even know them all, okay? There's no way I can know them all. So we have a police force, a sheriff, and we have all different kinds of people that are out there to protect us and uphold the law. We call it law and order. Without law and order, it would be chaos. People would be running around killing each other. People would be just taking whatever they want. And it wouldn't work. It would just be chaos, and it would be no order whatsoever in our world today if everybody just did what they wanted and there was nobody there to stop them or to take care of them. So we need to thank our men in blue and our sheriff and everybody else that's around that takes care of us. They watch out for us. They keep us as law-abiding citizens. That's their job. And if we do something wrong, they correct us. So it's important that we have laws in our country and in the world. Or it would just be, like I said, chaos. But what happens with man's law? Is man's law certain? Is it, trying to think of words here that would help me out. Are they in the book and it never changes? Or do they change? And do they improve on them, or do they not improve on them like we've seen in some cases? It's like with man's law, we're always trying to improve on everything we do. We have to make this law firmer, better, because people aren't getting it. So we have to write this in. And who makes our laws? Well, we know in D.C. that the House and the Senate, they write bills, and then they vote on these bills, and these bills become laws, and then they're signed off by the president. Yes, I accept this, and it becomes a law. Even in our local government, we have the same thing. We have a House and Senate. They write up bills, they turn them in, and they say, okay, let's have a vote on this. Here's what it says. And they vote on it, and if they all unanimously vote on it, it's gone up to the governor. He signs it, and it becomes a law. But have you noticed, with man's laws, they change. And sometimes they don't change always for the good. Okay, let's take abortion, for example. There used to be a time when abortion wasn't legal. So somebody came along and said, well, we need to do this to protect mothers that might have a bad birthing thing, and they could die, and we need to save the mother. Or we need to do this. But now it's become this thing where we've written it in that not only are hundreds of thousands of babies taken out of the womb and killed, but we're not doing it just in our state, we're not just doing it in our country, but now all of a sudden we're doing it worldwide. And I get to pay for it. Now, to me, that just seems like a law that just really shouldn't be there. There's just some things that go too far. So why not just say, well, we have people now that say, well, a child really doesn't know what gender he is until he reaches 4. So why not just go crazy and just say, hey, let's just, a child up to 4 years old, we can take their life because they don't think, they could, they're just a little baby, and we can just take them now, just till they're 4 years old, or maybe make it till they're 17. Why not? Because what's the difference between killing a baby that's in the womb and killing a baby that's 2 years old? There is no difference. It's all the same. It's a live human being. But we write these laws and we say, this is good. And so a lot of us that don't think it's good, we're looking at it going, what kind of crazy law is this? But for others who are all into that kind of stuff, they think it's great. It's like here recently they're coming up with this HR 127. If you're a gun owner, look out, because guns that you've owned for years and years and years and years, and your guns have never shot anybody, they've never assaulted anybody or anything like that. They've come out with laws now that says we're going to put an end to this because you're a legal gun owner and you've never shot anybody, so we're going to punish you for it. So sometimes with man, we create laws to support certain groups of people, and for other groups of people, it doesn't support. And then those lawmakers have started to become, are actually breaking the law by going against the U.S. Constitution. That's right. The U.S. Constitution is how our government is run. It's how we run our lives off the Constitution, and we have amendments like the First Amendment, the Second Amendment, the Third Amendment. And right now, we have lawmakers that are ignoring all these amendments, and they're ignoring the Constitution. They're saying, we're going to do this because we want to, because we got this little small group of people over here that don't like the fact that you own a gun or you don't want an abortion, and we're going to make it so you have to pay for it, or we're going to fine you for having a gun that you've owned for years and years and years. So it's all crazy. So why is man's law so much different than God's laws or God's commands? Well, because for us as human beings, we have a sinful nature. And that's how we are built. We have a sinful nature, and we like to make things work so that it works in our favor. So if we have the money, I could go down to D.C. and say, look, here's $1 million for you guys, and this is this is a law I want to see done. And then I want you guys to work on it, put it together, and then that way I can eliminate chihuahuas, because I don't like chihuahuas. Okay, so I want you guys to work on this, and I'm supporting this. I want you guys, get a senator to write up this bill and say, here's the money to back it up. Let's really push this through so that we can get rid of chihuahuas in all the world. Okay? Now, other people like chihuahuas. So what I'm doing is taking away their right to own a chihuahua because I don't like chihuahuas. So do you see how man's law works? There's a lot of good in our laws. Don't take me wrong. And don't think I'm putting down all our laws, because I'm not. But what I'm trying to show you is that with man's laws, as we set out to improve on them or make them better or do this or do that, it's like, hey, what are we going to do? It has to be laws, to me it has to be laws that protect everybody, not just this group or this group. I was thinking about this today while I was planning this all out, like what we had this last summer during the coronavirus thing. And we had the BLM and Antifa out there burning down buildings, kicking in windows, stealing stuff out of stores, rioting and marching up and down the streets. And we had some lawmakers that were saying, hey, wait a minute, we can't let this happen. What's going on here? Why aren't we stopping this? We had other lawmakers that looked the other way and said, no, what they're doing is all right. They're just getting their feelings out into the world, you know. So all these statues that were torn. Now, if I went down here in my city and tore a statue down, I would go to jail. Because I would say, oh, I just don't, it offends me. I don't like it. You know, well, you know, I'm sorry. But so you can see that in man's laws, we have a lot of problems within it. But with other laws, and we'll get into that later with God's laws and commands. But, or what about, I've lost track here. What about other things that go on in our world? You know, it's sometimes we wonder, you know, so our laws can be faulty at times in this day and age. They can be very faulty. But there are a lot of good laws. So this is man's law. Okay, take the one riot in Wisconsin with that young man named Kyle, who was out there and he was asked to come and protect some businesses. Some shots got fired. He was attacked. He ended up killing one person and wounding another. He was protecting himself, but it was kind of odd that everybody just said, well, he's a bad man, or he's a bad young man and he needs to go to prison for the rest of his life. But what about the guys that attacked him? They felt sorry for them. And the one guy that had a pistol in his hand that was coming after him and pointing it at him, he was defending himself. So sometimes we have laws that protect us when we defend ourselves. We have laws that say we can't do this. So it's very confusing and complicated. And even as a gun owner myself, you know, if I have to have insurance. I have gun protection insurance or gun owner protection insurance. So if somebody breaks into my house and attacks my family or anything like that, and I shoot that intruder and he's trying to hurt my son or anything like that, or try to kill somebody in the house, I have the right to stop him from doing it. But I have to have insurance because there's going to be people out there, just like what happened with Kyle, that are going to say, hey, wait a minute, you can't do this. And I understand I'm getting a little bit political here, so forgive me. But we have to look at man's law in a whole, not just one little piece of it. So we have to think about this, man's law. Man's law is created by men. Men who can be selfish, men who could be liars, men who could be thieves, men who could be just wrong about a lot of things. And so our laws have our own, if I sat down and wrote a law, let's put it this way, if I sat down and wrote a law, it would be, this is what I want to see. Okay, and I'm writing this out. This is how I want it to be. This is how I want it to be. But I got to think about all people as a whole. So that makes it a little bit more difficult when I'm writing a law. If I was a senator and I'm writing all this out and saying I want to pass this law because I don't like Chihuahuas. Okay, I have to think about the people that do like Chihuahuas. What do we do? Well, when you come to think about it, it's kind of a silly law, isn't it? Because some people like having a Chihuahua. Others don't. So if I wrote a law saying we're going to eliminate all Chihuahuas and you can't have any, well, that's not fair to the people that like Chihuahuas. Just like any other law. Some laws we write are a little bit crazy. So, you know, we have to remember that we got the men in blue. We got to watch, you know, we got to obey the laws. They're watching us. And if we're disobeying the laws, they're going to come after us. You know, if I was a drug dealer and they found out, hey, this guy's dealing drugs out of his house, they're going to be knocking on my door going, Mr. Darrell, we need to talk with you. And if they found drugs in my house, I would get arrested and I'd go to jail. That's a good thing. Because what I'm doing is I'm giving drugs to people and kids and messing up their lives, and all I'm doing is trying to make money off of it. But it's illegal. You can't do it. But right now we have a lot of laws that make a lot of things legal. And we wonder about it. You know, like, is this really something that should be legal? Is this something that ought to be legal? But until we come to a point in our life where we realize that the true Word of God is our only law. And we're going to get into that on our next video. So I appreciate your time, and thank you for it as we've looked at man's laws and what goes on with it. And, and I didn't go into big depth about it or anything like that, but I'm just hitting some high points. Like I said, thank a sheriff, thank a police officer for the job he does, because he does have a tough job. And we don't really need to be defunding them and using social workers, because I just don't see where social workers are going to help us when you got a guy in here with a gun or a knife trying to wipe us out. I'd rather have the policemen come in. But that's my opinion, okay? And you can agree with it or you can disagree with it. But as we move on, next time, on our next video, we're going to be looking at God's laws and God's commandments. And we're going to be talking a lot about that and how in our society we can make a difference if we know Christ as our Lord and Savior. All right, thank you for tuning in to Hope and Truth, and I hope you have a great day. Bye.